Yoga for Cyclists is for a cyclist who is trying to improve on their personal best for an event. The thing with cycling is you need to put in a lot of time on the bike. And if you're putting in a lot of time on the bike, as with any athletic activity, if you put in a lot of time, you're going to end up developing muscle imbalances in the body. So a good yoga practice for the cyclist will be a yoga practice that addresses those muscle imbalances. What do I mean by muscle imbalances? Is that some muscle groups will be overworked and overdeveloped, while other groups will be underused and underdeveloped. And this will lead to postural changes in that person's body. And in the long term, it's a contributing factor to overuse injuries. So a good yoga practice for the cyclists should take into account those muscle imbalances and help them with recovery from their training, and in the long term help prevent injuries. Okay, with us now for Yoga for Cycling, we have Kerry. Kerry is a keen cyclist. She cycles about 6 to 10 hours a week. Kerry's also a yoga teacher, so she understands the body and the biomechanics. We're going to look at the biomechanics of cycling. Firstly, you see the body is in a generally hunched position. It's rounded like so. Let's look at the head. Because Kerry has to look straight ahead, she has no option. The head must be in this extended position. The neck, at the back of the neck is shortened. The shoulders, because she's carrying weight on the handlebars, are forward, so she's getting a tightness here in the upper trapezius and the upper part of her neck extensors. This will lead to neck pain. If we look at the other things that this posture will create is lower back pain, and the third main thing that cyclists suffer from is ITB. You can see the tightness on the outside of the leg there. But because the body is locked in this unnaturally hunched position, there will be some muscle shortening and other muscles which become underactive. Generally, hip flexor muscle groups will become very tight. That will be the quadriceps, the iliacus, and the iliopsoas. And those will pull the lower spine into forward flexion in relation to the pelvis. This will lead to lower back pain, and in the long run, by holding in this position, there's a likelihood to develop disc problems in the lower back. The other point to make about the cycling action is with the legs. The muscles of the legs are working concentrically only. There's not really any eccentric work, and there's not any isometric work. So the leg muscles will develop a particular strength. In terms of the leg position, here you see the leg is straight at the bottom of the pedal stroke, but the leg is not really straight. It's less than fully straight. Now, Kerry, if you bend. And here at the top of the pedal stroke, where the pedal is at its topmost point of the cycle, the leg is also not fully flexed. It's a little less than 90 degrees. So the leg muscles are developing the ability to be strong, but in a limited range of motion. The third point is about core strength. What happens with the cycling action is the legs doing all the work. If you're hill climbing or mountain biking, it's a little different. By pulling with the arms, there's a transfer of force through the body. But generally speaking, the legs do most of the work, and the core, the trunk of the body, does very little. But to be a strong cyclist, you need to have a strong core. It's just that the action of cycling does nothing to build that strong core. The results of this hunched position will be neck and shoulder pain, lower back pain, and ITB tightness, which can lead to knee problems. Okay, we're going to talk about the anatomy of cycling. This is Fred. He's a skeleton. What happens with the cycling position is if you look at the neck in this forward bent position with the eyes looking straight ahead along the road, the vertebrae of the neck have no choice but to be in this extended position. And over time what happens is you develop a very strong upper trapezius muscle and levator-scapular muscle. These are attaching the scapula to the back or top of the neck. Also the little muscles here, the occiput, will become very tight. Just so that you can see, the natural position should be more like, so a natural neck is something like this. Cyclist position is something like that. So the key problems will be the scapulas tend to come forward and up towards the ears. They do this, making a lot of tension in the neck, and the head does this. Okay. If we then go on and look at the lower body, the cycling position is moving the knee from approximately here to approximately here and back again repetitively. Obviously the quadriceps muscle, which joins here the patella with this ASIS, this will be strong. That's not really a big problem, but another muscle group here which connects this point, the lesser trochanter, with these transverse processes of the spine, this muscle group joining here to here will also become very tight. So this is what we call the hip flexor. If the hip flexor becomes very tight, what happens is either the leg pulls up like that, or this part of the spine pulls forward like that. So what happens with tight hip flexor is either the leg gets kind of stuck in this position, or the lower back gets stuck in this position. So typically people who cycle a lot, they stick their bum out a little bit like that, and they find it hard to stand up properly straight. That's because of tight hip flexor. Okay, the other main problem that happens with cycling, spending a lot of time on the bike, is the ITB, which is a band of connective tissue. The band of connective tissue from the outside of the tibia along to the outside of the hip. This is the ilium, this is the tibia, so it's called the iliotibial band. And all of these muscles, including the buttocks muscle, the glute maximus, minimus medius, are connected to this long band. So that becomes overworked. The way to stretch that, obviously, then is to bring the leg across the front of the body like that and get it some stretching. The other way to balance that muscle is to strengthen the muscles on the inside of the leg.